These are some smaller locations that are mentioned on the map from Alpha Omega. So Broken Arrow headquarters in DC, that's probably just some rando office building. Not really any information about that other than it's a headquarters, so nothing really to say there, right?
I mean, I guess it's
Probably.
close enough, right, to like Langley. So maybe it's like I said, kind of,
That's true.
and also being the capital and everything. So.
Yeah, because these are Broken Arrows is spinoff. They are funded and funded by the DoD. So
yeah, I think it's just like again
probably...
with everything. I was gonna say they're the sister to the CIA, and just everything runs in like that parallel. Black Ops, campaign and zombies and stuff like that. Just yeah, that's kind of how I see them.
You might even consider there to be because they seem to be more of a company and not a government agency. There might be a small lobbying outfit inside their DC office there. That could be there. I'm trying to think what else, how big that might be, the kinds of things they would do there. I guess that'd just be a lot of administrative bureaucratic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say they're supposed to be like that universe's Men in Black, the sort of the shadowy figure behind the scenes that's all involved in things that even some of the people in the highest ranking positions wouldn't even know that's going on. That's kind of how I feel Broken Arrow is what they're supposed to be.
So just quick mention: Excavation Site 64, potential gateway. That's a wow. So original timeline, that means this is like an excavation site that's designated 64, like it is in Dimension 63, like where Origins happens. So, and they're aware that this is a potential gateway to Agartha. So I wonder. So I guess there's not the mass outbreak like there is in Origins, and there's not like the portal in the sky, but there's something indicating there that this is where the Great War happened.
Yeah, it seems to me that it must be a constant in the same way that like Shangri-La seems to be a constant.
Right.
Just everyone perceives that to be something that you can just always get to Agartha by. So for this space must, right, probably because the Great War was there, it's got a significant.
Well, what's kind of interesting is you mentioned Excavation Site 64. I'm wondering, is the Ether universe of Ultimus, you think that would technically be designated as Dimension 64 then? If the other one's 63?
I think the implication is that it's Dimension 1, but I don't
know. It is Dimension 1? Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I would think it would be like Dimension 1 or like the origin dimension. But now it's kind of interesting when thinking about it being 64.
It's called 64 in Dimension 63 as well.
Oh, never mind then.
That's like the map name in Black Ops 2, because you know how it had like 3-tier layers of map names.
Yeah, like Green Transit, Green Run, yeah.
Resolution 1295, yeah. So yeah, 64. It's interesting. So it's like, I guess they're just watching over the site. Maybe it's a potential gateway. So is it like, because my thought was that Purnell is the only one trying to get to Agartha. It's like his personal goal based on his dreams. But the fact that it's on this like, seemingly public map, is this like just a goal of all of Broken Arrow, maybe to open new worlds, like the motto is?
Yeah, it has to be to some extent. Like, I wonder to what degree they're even aware of like what that means. It's like, oh, we're going to visit new worlds. Like Purnell seems to have a better understanding of it.
Maybe it's like it's part of the plan to stop Samantha, right? You can't just stop her from this dimension. You have to open a gateway, fight her there. But yeah, we can move on to the London office. So we just know they have a hand in other countries. They've got some sort of office in London. I don't know if that's like I don't know, because anytime I see something where it's like somewhere in England, I'm thinking like, is this connected to Monty, or is it connected to just a little insert for Blundell or something? I don't know. It could be. It's probably nothing.
Yeah, well, I feel like they probably had the idea since Doris of trying to connect something to England for like the longest time. So
That's
maybe it's
true.
just they try to
Yeah.
pepper it in it, but it still does. I mean, Blundell worked on Doris, so I mean, who knows? It's probably a column A, column B, column C kind of thing.
Yeah, I think they were always wanting to do some sort of England map. Because I mean, like you said, it's the mention of England is a teleporter to England somewhere. So maybe there's like a 935 England facility. I don't know. It's just strange. But yeah, not much to say there, I don't think. Can move to. This could be interesting too. So where Shangri-La is located, that's called a time paradox site / potential gateway. So the gateway thing is, I don't think have we ever considered that. I mean, I guess that's what Brock and Gary's theory was, right? That it
It's the
was a
Hollow
gateway
Earth.
to Agartha.
I don't know if the series has kind of retconned it out, but I'd like to think that the Hollow Earth is actually a physical place, but it does seem to be all these places that are connected to whatever the Hollow Earth may be. So yeah, I think that's probably why it's a gateway.
I was just gonna say that like there's the theory that Shangri-La has like the crazy place in it. So it's like the crazy place being like the sort of the middleman between like whatever gateway is in our world to the ether. So it's like if that's also in Shangri-La, or like there's a portal to it in Shangri-La. That's interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's, I guess, what the Hollow Earth in this universe is supposed to be, like some weird interdimensional like pocket space that I guess connects to the ether or something. So
Yeah, the part about that intrigues me so much is the where it says that it's a time paradox site. I personally have not looked a lot into the theories about like the ley lines and stuff like that for this series. But it really registered with me because in the greatest show of all time, Lost, for example, it's the exact same thing where the island is a time paradox site. Essentially, it's just a unique location that warps time and stuff like that. So it totally, I don't know. It just made sense. I could fit it in. I understood
because it's kind of like with Tag, and I guess to some extent Buried, but you have like a place that's anchored, like in time and space, and it just keeps like shifting. Like you have actual teleporting places. So yeah, that kind of with the whole idea of it being on, what was it, Phobos? Is that where Shangri-La is supposed to be?
That's where
Right.
Phobos is where
Tag. Did I have it the other way? Yeah, I have it
So,
switched.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. Tag is yeah, because Shang is
And
on
Shangri-La is
Mars.
on Mars,
Yes, that's what it is.
which is a fact. But
Yes, it is. So I guess that makes sense, right? Like that these places would have some type of weird temporal distortion if it's somehow like moving from it through space and time, and
Mhm.
who knows?
Well, something that I mean, it sticks out to me that it's a time paradox site because it's like that means they're aware that you can become stuck in it. So it's like has someone
Yeah, how do
from
you?
Broken Arrow gotten stuck in it? Are they like can they peer in and see Brock and Gary and Sally all trapped in this? Are they aware of it? They're aware that there was an outbreak whenever Ultimus showed up, right? So like could
Yeah,
they see that? Could they see that but not get trapped in it themselves?
I don't know.
That's
I
super.
kind of take it as sort of like what happened with the moon, where they're like, we've sent people to the moon and they've never come back. So I guess maybe they're like, we've sent someone there and they just disappeared. And they're kind of like, oh, it must be some temporal anomaly or whatever. Or like maybe like someone was sent and then,
Mhm.
I don't know, they found them like years later or something, or who knows, kind of
That would just
wacky.
be such a cool short, or
Yes.
just like a radio or something. Just like yeah, like someone from Broken Arrow, because it's like there's people from all over in there. There's like Brock and Gary from the 50s. There's Sally
Yeah,
from 2011.
hey, that could be the crew. It could be Sally, someone from Broken Arrow, and Brock and Gary.
You got Ultimus from 1945. It's yeah, it's just like just a bunch of people from all over time just stuck in one place. And so I also wonder, do they do anything there at the facility, or do they just watch over it? They have like aerial photos of it from like in classified. They have those of all the locations that there've been outbreaks in throughout Black Ops and World at War. But do you think that they've done any operations there?
Yeah, I think it could go either way. It's a kind of a shame because yeah, we don't timeline doesn't really elaborate, so I guess it's like we don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, who knows? I mean, I kind of feel like a lot of these places sort of have the benefit of essentially being haunted by Samantha. So you kind of get that these places, the agencies and stuff like Broken Arrow can spy, but probably can't do much because they're going to get telesent across space and time or
Look,
like
don't
mauled by
touch.
zombies. Yeah, which is kind of nice because then it avoids the trap of like everything has been Broken Arrow.
Yeah. Also, I wonder if like these are just the potential gateways that they've recognized, but there could be plenty more. Like, do you think Morgue City is a potential gateway? It's where the Apothicons take over Dimension 63. So is it like that's a potential gateway?
The thing that I have is Morgue City, like I always equated it to Alcatraz, where it's like a twisted reflect. Or doesn't it say it's a twisted reflection of of an actual place?
Yeah, it is.
So
But it's like through their actions, like getting trapped there, they allow the Shadow Man and the Apothicons to show up in the actual dimension and destroy it. So it's sort of like a middle, an in between.
yeah, but I meant the Morgue City was created by the Shadow Man and the Apothicons first, though, right?
Well, it's an actual city with stuff going on.
I meant the Shadows of Evil Morgue City was created by the Apothicons.
Oh yeah.
Like they sort of infiltrated that dimension and then essentially copied and pasted it and created the like Morgue City.
I guess we don't know. I mean, it could be that they really did just kill or infect everyone in Morgue City, and like the actual characters there are the ones left because only the cursed survive, and so they use them to open the gateway and let them full access into the dimension.
That's kind of how I felt like it happened. Like they created this, like almost like a mirror, going with that analogy. Like they created this sort of parallel world, and then maybe kept pulling people until the events of Shadows of Evil, where then they just consumed everything.
It's just I love that term. I just love just on the base level the terminology, time paradox site and potential gateway. Yeah, it's very exciting. I like that stuff.
Yeah,
they just excite me. Let's
go.
How
much they could do with it. Like you could just have a whole season of just sort of these like Broken Arrow kind of side story maps.
I need more like interdimensional time paradoxes, man. It's such a cool idea. So the last location, this kind of took people by surprise, was the Province 22 facility. It's mentioned as a BIOS testing and weapons testing, and this is the diarized map.
Which that's just so strange.
Right, because you think that when the map is this map that's on the wall in Alpha Omega was probably made in the 60s because that's when the place was abandoned. So it's like, but at that time, I mean, Rushmore even is suspicious of Russians, Chinese, Cubans, There's still anti-communist stuff, but
I guess it's like like in the real Cold War, there were spies all over the place. I'm assuming this is just sort of another. I guess it's another black site that
this is another Siberian facility where it's like in enemy territory, but they just don't know.
You don't know it exists, and I guess they at least I don't know. Well, I don't know if they've been teleporting, but there's sort of at least the benefit of there's sort of bizarre enough technology to kind of explain why you could anchor yourself in someone else's territory.
That'd be so wild. Oh man,
and
I want to. Okay, so are we positive that everything on the map represents something that belongs to them, or is there the possibility this is like these are the facilities that we know about?
That's a good question.
Like, so it doesn't actually relate to them at all?
Because it's a big building with like multiple levels and different stuff going on. There's like the sleeping cages. There's
factory?
Like a garment. Yeah, like a laundry. There's like the Buddha
that's like
room.
Its front or something. Maybe it's
right.
I guess there's.
It could be like because I mean they could just be holding like certain levels of the building.
Yeah.
And so
And I'm assuming it's kind of the trope, and it's like, oh, this is the front. You're going to go to this is just the garment factory.
Well,
do we?
Go ahead.
I was gonna, do we have anything in the actual Die Rise map that there was like some other stuff going on here, or is it just I just remember it just being like an office complex essentially.
Just the crawlers and then the tower, really. Because connecting to besides like the SDC soldiers. But okay, the thing I was going to say is to connect it to recent events. There was the Chinese consulate in Houston that got shut down because apparently it was this big haven for Chinese spies. This might be a similar situation where it's like legally they can be there doing what they're doing, but they're not going to get shut down for whatever legal red tape there is.
That's probably what it is. It's just that like you said, everyone's spying on everyone, so I guess it makes some sense that you would have behind enemy lines.
Right.
Which is kind of fun to think, like, is there a reciprocal? Like, are there Russian and Chinese 935 related in, the United States and stuff like that?
It's been pointed out that there's like Soviet boxes in transit.
Yeah.
So, sure, I mean, they're used assets, but they're there. So.
Because that would be another neat map. Like right under your nose, the Soviet spies are here, and it's a...
Right, I like it. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, the BIOS testing is interesting because, like, you don't see... Okay, both of those things, weapons and BIOS, the only wonder weapon on the map is the Silica-Fire, which is made of trash, so I don't think it's that. So, like, what weapons and what BIOS? There's no BIOS.
The Silica-Fire is kind of an interesting weapon too, because are we supposed to assume that there's some 115 connection? Because it creates like a slick, right? And then don't the zombies get melted by it?
The soap, there's like 115, something mixed in it that's like making it do that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But okay, well the thing, I mean, this is a huge this has been a long-standing topic on CODs about Die Rise. There's like a sign that calls it the International Zombie Center. So it seems like it became sort of a site for studying zombies or trying to help people recover from the virus after the nukes hit or after the rockets hit, or like maybe was it that before?
I mean, the only thing is, I guess that they sort of have is the like verticality. I guess people are, and it's sort of a skyscraper that you could have someone. I don't know. It's less you have to worry about zombies rolling on the streets if you're sort of locked up in this kind of vertical bunker. But
it's also possible the Die Rise we see in 2035 is like maybe Broken Arrow. Exact same thing that's happening right now with the Chinese consulate. It got shut down in like the 70s or 80s, and then all that's left is like. I mean, it's just all that's left is like the tower. So like they've removed any American influence there. But I mean, I think the whole idea with that was like, I think the thing with the towers is Richthofen requests one from the Soviets, one from the Americans, and then the one that's in transit gets built by the survivors, the timeline says. So presumably that would mean the Soviet one went to the buried one, maybe? And the American one went to the Chinese one.
Huh. That's even more bizarre. So that the Soviets had their... So then I guess the Soviets also were interested in buried, too.
Maybe. Or maybe it's flipped, for all we know. That's where it's like...
Yeah, you would think it would make a little more sense, right? That the Soviets... who knows, I guess, with all this stuff. The one thing I did forget to mention is I don't want to go back to... the questions on Shangri-La, but is there anything about the significance of like the eclipse and the positioning of like planets and stuff? I just that ties into. It just would be neat to see if that also kind of has more of an implication of how like sort of things function in the universe with ley lines and 115. If almost astrology kind of plays a role.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was just something.
I want to say it's not realistic that like the Die Rise, I mean the Der Riese eclipse, there's no date in 1945 where that could have happened or whatever. I'm pretty sure that's a thing that's been looked into, so it's just kind of...
yeah. Sorry, but I meant like with the idea of if the planets like have like 115 or something like that, like when they like align, I don't know, maybe they like you wacky things can happen.
Oh, I know what you mean, because like I mean we discovered the source on Venus, right? That's that cipher that Rich solved. So
Yeah.
he just is if Venus is like aligned with a certain planet or moon, is it casting 115 and creating a time paradox site?
Yeah, they like supercharge each other or something,
That's
or
wild. I
like
love
with
that.
ley lines that they're influencing or
I
whatever.
love that. I need a theory on that. Annan, if you're listening, can you make a theory on that, please?
Yep, someone needs to write it up.
I think you can
Wow.
just connect it to the. I'm gonna connect it to his ley line thread, and that if the ley lines are influenced by 115, maybe it's like the idea that the planet's ley lines are intersecting, and then it's causing things to jump between the planets.
Uh,
That's what I'm going with.
I'm into it.
We've now gotten the planetary ley lines.
Terry Littles. Anyway, back to Broken Arrow. So that's everything from that map, which was pretty extensive. And I assume that that cuts off at 1968, whenever the place gets abandoned. So they could have had plenty other facilities after that. There's one that we see in the comics that's not named, but it's seemingly where they created the BIOS for the first time in the 80s with the elemental shard. And it's like, yeah, they make these BIOS with the elemental shard, but then they take over the facility, and so it's abandoned.
So, daily reminder that one of the BIOS was a raptor. Just want to put that out there.
Right, dinosaurs resurrected ancient beasts. So I mean, the timeline on that elemental shard thing is interesting. It's I did the math on this, not necessarily math, but it's like to kind of explain why the elemental shard is in all these places and why the timeline says this, but this says this. It's like the elemental shard gets given to Division 9 in 1945, whenever Yena takes away from Richtofen, gives it to them. Then it gets picked up by the U.S., and they're like recovering materials taken from Division 9, but then it goes missing, and Sawyer suspects that Parnell did it. Then cut to, I think, 1968-ish. Parnell uses it to resurrect Peter, and he charges up the 80 AMs. And then the DOD says, okay, you stole this, you can't have this. They try to take it, but Parnell splits it in half, and he keeps one half. So the other half gets confiscated, but the one he keeps, that ends up with him inside the APD whenever he takes over Camp Edward, right? So then the timeline says in like the 70s that Broken Arrow gets this shard of element 115 from Division 9 in like the 70s, which doesn't really make a lot of sense that way it's worded, but my way of thinking is like the DOD's like, okay, he's not in charge anymore, you guys can have this back. So they give it back, they use it in the 80s to make the bios, all that, and then Victus gets it. So that's where the two shards come from.
But they still, the shards haven't been reunited, right? If I'm understanding that correctly.
Right. Yeah, there's just two separate small ones.
That's kind of fitting,
though. Yeah.
That's like another parallel of like the whole, like it's literally split. You have the two shards split.
Right. Why don't you just make it a bunch of little tiny pieces? Just give everyone a little bit one. Keep them alive forever. Wait, that's how you can just make everyone immortal if they just bite off a little chunk of it. Why isn't everyone doing this? Anyway, what we're talking about? We're talking about
need to be selling this.
Right, be selling this. But yeah,
just snort it, and you're like, just feel good.
Live forever. But I mean, there's a theory that I think Annan made where I think that this unknown facility is a die-rise.
Oh.
It's just you just see it from the inside, so you don't know. Like there's no indication.
That could be.
It's possible.
That'd be cool.
Interested. And then I mean, yeah. So yeah, there's not much we know about that. Just know there's bios there. Could be one of the ones we know, could be not. And then I guess other than that, there's just the Pentagon, which isn't technically a Broken Arrow facility. It's kind of like pre-Broken Arrow.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think we touched on it a little bit in the beginning too, but there's so much. Right. I mean, I guess Purnell had the always had the idea of Broken Arrow, and I don't know. It's kind of the proto Broken Arrow, so I guess it's fitting.
Right.
You know.
Right. They got undead. They got pigs turning into crawlers. Weapons like the Winter's Howl.
Mm-hmm.
First teleporters in the U.S. The TED again, and then Nova 6. Nova 6 is interesting because, I mean, if we go by the campaign in 1963, they shouldn't have Nova 6 unless it's like this prototype version from Group 935, which is my assumption.
Yeah, I think that's at least a safer assumption.
It's like the mostly non-lethal version.
Which I guess would explain, yeah, why you can step through the crawlers, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, alternate explanation for that would be that you can step through them because your Ultimus or Victus. Or well, no, because the 5 crew can do it, but maybe that's just gameplay. I don't know.
One of the theories was that it was that the crawlers were 1940s solution in chemical creation, and so by the 60s they were just much less potent. That was one idea, but now I guess I'm curious now. I so many things I need to catch up on. So is it the case that it's the new 1960s gas inside the crawlers? Do we know? What do you think?
Yeah, I always wonder, like, is it diluted, or does maybe 115 nullify it to some extent? Or I also wondered, I'm just going to assume that most of the people who survive and you play as in the zombies maps are just sort of immune to 115. So maybe like you don't experience the effects of Nova 6 to, if you're immune to 115 or something.
Right, that's kind of what I was getting at. It's just I was confused by why the 5 crew would. But I mean, maybe just because all the time spent. Well, no, because Castro, but that just might be a gameplay thing. It could also be because I mean, you take a lot of damage and zombies die if they're near one when it explodes. So it might just be it's like super diluted. So only at like the initial burst when you get a big burst of it in your body that it actually kills you, versus like when it's just in the air, just sitting there, it's kind of dispersed.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the explosion that damages you or it's all the gas concentrated.
Yeah, that's kind of I don't know. There's so much, especially like tying into mechanics and what is and isn't.
We talked about the probably don't need to go into it, but the proto keeper thing with the crawlers. Just the idea that like the US was trying to, they had keeper DNA, maybe they knew it, maybe they didn't. And they combined that with, well, the idea is either combine keeper DNA or human DNA with pigs. And that creates like this sort of proto keeper, similar to the Origins proto keepers with like the huge teeth.
Oh yeah.
They don't resemble humans much at all. Mostly they have a lot of keeper features though.
I just like to think it's like, the combining DNA is a la Jurassic Park, where you're just splicing genes and you're not like injecting pigs or whatever with keeper DNA and they transfer. Like that's what I'd like to think. Or gosh, is it like The Fly, the movie The Fly, with like you're teleporting, smashing things together? I hope that's not true.
I think it's mostly because it's like the blueprints say like pre-transformation, post-transformation.
I know, yeah. Like, are they doing that's how they splice DNA, is just by teleporting things into each other?
Right. Well, I mean, it could have something to do with the cloning technology. Because, I mean, the cloning technology makes clones that age very quickly. Sort of like the Star Wars clones, where it takes their DNA and it rapidly ages them to where they're adults in just such a short amount of time. So that might be part of why that mutation looks so awful, and why it seems to be devolving them into keepers.
There's so much with that like could be explored.
Right. That's where the podcast, the human evolution from the ancient ones.
That would be a great one.
We'll put a pin on that. So that's I mean, that's all the Broken Arrow facilities that we really know of.
Yeah,
Anything else to say on that?
that'd be it.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Well, there's there's Schatten, right?
We had to get
Please.
it in. Okay,
We
we'll
had
just
to-
say the multiplayer map Der Schatten has a area with reused assets from Alpha Omega. So it's like posters, and then like machines with the Broken Arrow logo on it. In some cases, the logo is flipped for whatever reason, and it's a clear use of reused assets in limited time, but you can't ignore it. I can't ignore it, at
Well,
least. Matt can't ignore it.
I can't ignore it also because the description of the map is that the specialist gets sent back in time.
I know.
And if you have the idea of Broken Arrow opening up portals to pocket dimensions or multiple worlds or whatever, it just makes me think that Broken Arrow is spying and peering into multiple timelines or whatever. So yeah, I think there's
I
Schatten.
just can't. I can't deal.
It
I'm
had
tired
to
of thinking. I've aliens, whatever, blackout, whatever. This is Cosmic Silverback, Captain Price, whatever. This is just. I don't even know what to think.
Stupid. That's what
It's a little dumb, but that's game development for you. They don't always think about these little.
But like, I feel like they
Or-
had to know. Like, there are sometimes. I mean, I don't know. Maybe, well, because it's a German map, and like the posters are in English, right? So it's like, and there's other parts of the map where there's new assets, and it's in German. So it's just weird that I don't know. Maybe they're just like, we need to fill this room with posters. Here's a zombie poster, but like, I don't know. It's just
I don't know. That's all I gotta say on that. It's just I don't know.
I don't know.
they know what they were doing. They know better. They know what they're doing. Don't give
They contacted Maxis in the Agonia fracture.
That's it.
Sophia says that Broken Arrow showed Maxis how to open new worlds. That might be worthy of discussion in a future podcast where we do talk about Broken Arrow's history. Potentially.
I
Spoiler.
think that would be a great place for it.
Spoiler, we're also going to talk about TED locations. And, look forward to that whenever that happens. Maybe no one will care because Black Ops whatever will be revealed. Anyway.
And possibly
meantime,
retcon
you have-
everything into the dirt.
Yeah, but until then, you have our beautiful voices and ideas and thoughts and all of the above.
Right.
Mhm.
And I'm also going to say, and we're going to announce it here, maybe no one will care, there's no recurring viewers for, maybe it's just drop in, drop out. But we're going to start uploading also on Fridays, try to upload a video. Sometimes it's going to be an old podcast from like the, pre-me days. Probably pre you guys too. Tackle, you were on some old ones too. And Matt, you were on the last season.
Probably still.
Yay.
But we're gonna upload some old ones that are on the channel, and also gonna try to upload some scripted stuff too. I'm gonna look into that. I'm gonna say it here so that I commit myself, and I have to do it. So,
All right.
see about that.
Ruh-roh.
Fair enough.
Anyway, weird place to put state of the channel, but yeah, look forward to that. Anyway,
Cool.
let's wrap this up. Anything else to say, guys?
Nah,
I think that's it from me.
I'm
Alright.
good.
Goodbye and good night.
Good night indeed.